They tell you grief fades. That time will blunt the edges and eventually you'll just remember the good things. That's a lie. Grief mutates. It grows teeth, and it finds ways to come back. And sometimes, if you're unlucky, it knocks on your door at night. It started 6 months after my wife died. A car accident. It was instant, clean. That's what the coroner said. We didn't have kids, just the two of us and our dog, Jasper. He was an old mutt, the kind of ugly, cute, only dog people fall in love with. One ear up, the other flopped sideways, and eyes like he'd seen too much. He died 3 weeks after her funeral, just lay down next to her side of the bed and didn't get back up. I buried him in the backyard, wrapped in his favorite flannel blanket, said something half mumbled and stupid. I wasn't okay, but I told myself I would be. The house went still, and that's what hit me the hardest. The kind of quiet that doesn't just fill the room, it fills you. I stopped turning on the television, stopped cooking, and stopped answering calls. The world kept moving, but I didn't. Then one night, I heard familiar paws on the hallway floor. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. Jasper had that exact gait, slow, careful, like his joints ached. I used to know it better than my own footsteps. I waited. Nothing, just silence. The next night, the same sound. 3 taps. Then a soft woof, low and quiet, like the sigh he'd give when settling down by the couch. I whispered his name. Jasper? Nothing. No more tapping, but the air smelled different, like wet fur and dirt, like outside, dragged in. In the morning, I found muddy prints in the hallway, dog paw prints, and at the end of them, resting gently against the door to our bedroom, his blanket, the same one I buried him in, folded, clean, dry. I told myself I was sleepwalking, losing it, hallucinating. Grief can do that. It can make ghosts where there are none. But that night, I locked every door, double-checked the windows, and settled down in bed. Still, the tapping came. Closer now. I heard it stop just outside the bedroom. And then the scratching started. Soft at first, then more urgent, like he wanted in, like he needed in. And underneath it, a sound I didn't understand at first. Breathing, but not the way Jasper used to breathe. This was heavy, wet, like lungs full of mud. Each inhale a gurgle, each exhale a sob. I didn't open the door. I waited until morning, and when I finally looked, there were gouges in the wood, deep ones, not made by old, arthritic claws, something sharper. That day, I dug up his grave. The blanket was still there, and so was his collar, but his body was gone. Just a hollow space in the dirt, shaped like a dog curled up. That night, I didn't sleep. At 2:33 a.m., the scratching came again, and this time, the door opened on its own. No wind, no creak, just the sound of a latch sliding, slowly, deliberately. I held my breath. And then I saw him. Jasper, or something wearing him. His fur was soaked, slick, with something black and foul-smelling. His mouth hung open, and there was no tongue. His eyes, they were just holes, empty, weeping soil. But he wagged his tail, slowly, like he remembered, like he forgave me. I whispered his name again. Jasper. He took one step into the room and then vanished. The smell lingered. The wet prints led to the bed, right to my wife's side. In the morning, the sheet was pulled back. The pillow was dented and his blanket was draped across the top of the bed. That night, I left the door open. I don't know why. Part of me was afraid, but part of me wanted to believe it was love, some final connection, a goodbye. At 2:33 a.m., the hallway filled with a sound I'd never heard from Jasper in life. A growl, deep, menacing, vibrating the walls. I stayed frozen under the covers as the growl moved closer. Step by step, the bed dipped on her side. I felt the weight, heavy, wrong, and then sniffing, just inches from my face. Then the growl again, but this time it was inside me, rattling my ribs. I shut my eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry. I love you, Jasper." The weight instantly vanished, but I didn't open my eyes for a long time. The house has stayed quiet since then. No more tapping, no more breathing, just silence. But every morning I wake up, and his flannel blanket is folded neatly at the end of the bed, no matter where I hide it. I don't tell many people this story, not because they wouldn't believe me, though most wouldn't, but because once I start remembering it, I can't get it out of my head for days. It happened 5 years ago, when I went back to clear out my grandfather's farmhouse after he passed. It had been abandoned for almost a decade by then. We tried getting him to leave after my grandmother died, but he said he couldn't, said the land still had unsettled things. We always thought he meant taxes or property lines. We were wrong. I arrived in late August. The corn was high, dry, and yellow, stretching behind the house like a tidal wave frozen mid-crash. There was no wind, no insects, just the heat and silence. The house smelled like old paper and pine cleaner. Dust lay over everything like frost. But there was something else, a smell I couldn't place right away. Damp fur, maybe? Earth? Not mold, but something more organic, more alive. I was sleeping on a cot in the living room, all the windows open to let in the breeze. Sometime past midnight, I heard scratching, soft at first, then firmer, coming from the back door. It was rhythmic, desperate, like something trying to be let in. I froze. I had locked the door. I know I had. I waited. Eventually, the scratching stopped. I got up, crept toward the back window, and peeked through the curtain. There, standing just outside the door, was a dog. A big one, black and brown. Looked like a shepherd mix, but it was thin, too thin. Its fur was patchy, ribs visible even in the moonlight. It stared at the door, unmoving. I whispered, "Hey, buddy." It turned its head slowly toward me. Our eyes met, and then it was gone. No sound, no running, just gone. In the morning, I found scratches on the door, deep splintered gouges, not from claws, from something sharper, longer. Later, I called my mom, asked if Grandpa had a dog. She went quiet. Then she said, "He used to, back when I was little. A mutt named Copper, smart as hell, used to follow him out into the fields every morning." "What happened to it?" I asked. She hesitated. "It died." "How?" She hung up. That night, I heard barking. Not outside, inside. It echoed from the basement. 3 deep, broken wolves, like someone hitting an empty oil drum. I didn't go down there. The house felt heavier by then, warmer, despite the cooler nights. The smell of fur and soil had intensified, and I kept finding clumps of hair in corners, matted black and brown fur, still wet. On the 3rd night, the barking came again, and this time the scratching came from inside the walls, the hallway, the stairs, the pantry. The dog was in the house. I grabbed a flashlight and headed to the basement. The stairs groaned under me. The air down there was thick, humid. The light flickered as I panned the flashlight across old boxes, tools, a broken workbench. Then I saw him, in the corner behind the furnace. The dog, Copper, or what was left of him. His eyes were gone, hollow sockets filled with dirt. His mouth hung open, tongue blackened and shriveled, and yet he was breathing. Shallow, rasping breaths that sounded like dry leaves being crushed. As he stood, his bones creaked. He looked at me and barked. My flashlight died. I bolted up the stairs, slammed the door, and pushed a chair under the knob. All night, he scratched at the basement door, not frantically, patiently, like he knew I'd have to come back down eventually. I sat on the porch until dawn. Then I walked into the cornfield. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I'd find answers. Maybe I thought I could leave him behind. About 50 yards in, I found a clearing, a shallow pit, half collapsed. Something was buried in it, badly. A skeleton, human, wearing what looked like an old plaid shirt. Jaw cracked open, one hand reaching out toward the edge of the grave. I stared at it, frozen, until I saw what was beside it. A second skeleton, 4 legs, a dog. The bones of its front paws wrapped around the man's chest, as if it had laid down with him, as if it had waited. I backed out of the field and didn't go back. I left that afternoon, called the county police anonymously, told them I found remains on the property, never said whose, and I never followed up. But Copper followed me. I hear him scratching sometimes, usually when I've let the house go quiet too long, always at 3:12 a.m. Same as the clock in the farmhouse kitchen, which had stopped at that exact time. I moved apartments twice, got a dog of my own. She won't go near doors when it's dark and whimpers when the scratching starts. I think Copper thinks I'm the one who left him. Maybe he thinks I'm my grandfather? Or maybe he just wants to finish lying down next to someone who won't leave. I used to be a night security guard for an industrial complex that backed up against a stretch of long-abandoned rail lines in scrubland. 5 warehouses, all metal-sided, all quiet after 6 p.m. Most nights were uneventful, just walking circuits, watching static-filled monitors, drinking bitter coffee from a machine older than I was. It was on one of these long, dead nights that I heard the first bark. I remember the time exactly, 1:11 a.m. I was standing by the loading dock of Warehouse B, flicking a flashlight across the tree line. That's when I heard it. One sharp bark. Not distant, but not close. Like it came from behind something, maybe between the dumpsters. I walked over and scanned the area. Nothing. No prints in the dirt, no movement, no wind, just the smell of rust and wet concrete. I told myself it was a stray, maybe got stuck in the fence and wandered off. I let it go. But the next night, it barked again. Same time, 1:11 a.m. Same single clipped bark. I started leaving crumbs out, bits of sandwich, some water, but the food was never touched, even though the bark always came, always from a different direction, always alone. Eventually, I started talking back. Hello? I'd call into the dark. Just that one bark then, no response. One night, I finally saw it. There was a thick fog rolling in. It blurred the security lights, made the ground look like soup. I was walking between warehouses D and E when I saw a shape at the end of the path, low to the ground, still, watching. It looked like a German shepherd, but all wrong, bigger. Its limbs seemed disjointed, too long, like someone stretched it. Its eyes caught the light but didn't reflect it. They absorbed it, like twin black holes. And then it barked. I flinched so hard I dropped my flashlight. When I picked it up, the thing was gone. Not a sound, not a footstep, not even a print in the dew-soaked gravel. That's when the dream started. I'd wake up gasping, sweaty, remembering only flashes, a train tunnel, wet fur, a low growl vibrating through my chest. And, always, those 2 black eyes in the dark, unblinking, patient. I started asking around. The older guys at the depot remembered the dog. Old Scout, they called him. Said he belonged to a foreman who died out there decades ago, collapsed of a heart attack between the warehouses during a night shift. The dog never left. They said he waited, guarded the spot where his owner fell, for 3 weeks until he starved. But that wasn't the end of Scout. Sometimes he still makes rounds, one of the old-timers said. Loyalty like that doesn't die. I laughed it off at the time. Loyalty. Right. After that, things escalated. One night, the power went out at exactly 1:11 a.m. All 5 warehouses went black. No wind, no thunder, just a sudden blink, and then darkness. And then the bark. But this time it wasn't distant. It was inside the room with me. I didn't move. I couldn't. The hairs on my arms lifted. The smell hit next, like wet dog fur and something sour underneath. And then I heard breathing, heavy, just behind my chair. I turned slowly, heart pounding. Nothing. But when I looked at the floor, there were wet paw prints leading away from me, out the door. The power came back on a second later. I quit that night, left my badge and vest on the desk and drove without stopping, without packing, just straight through the night like something was chasing me. I thought leaving would help, but it didn't. He barked outside my apartment 2 nights later, 1:11 a.m. I moved, didn't leave a forwarding address, but he found me again, same time, every night, 1 bark, 1 warning. I see him in reflections, in the corner of my television screen when it's off, in windows when I pass by. I hear claws on tile when I'm alone in the shower, and sometimes I find paw prints by the bed. Sometimes I wake up to the sound of whimpering, like a wounded animal begging to be let in. Last week, my neighbor's dog went missing, a golden retriever. Sweet animal, always wagged its tail when it saw me. I found its collar outside my window, snapped clean in half. I don't know what he wants. A replacement owner, maybe? Every night, I try to stay awake. I keep the lights on and force my eyes to stay open. But I know that one night, I'll blink too long, and when I open them, he'll be there. Loyalty like that doesn't die, and I think he thinks I'm his master now. I've never liked dogs. Not because I hate them, I just don't trust them. It's the way they stare, like they're sizing you up for something you can't see coming. Still, I never imagined a dog would be the reason I no longer sleep at night. Last fall, I rented a place on the outskirts of a dying town in upstate New York. I needed somewhere quiet to finish my thesis on post-traumatic memory patterns, ironically enough, and the farmhouse I found was secluded, cheap, and smelled faintly of old pine and forgotten winters. Perfect, I thought. No distractions. On the first day, I noticed the path. It led from the back of the property into a thicket of trees, the kind that crowd together like they're whispering secrets. At the end of the path was a rusted gate, partially buried in leaves. Beyond it, nothing but overgrown brush and something that might have been an old shed, now collapsed inward like it had been punched by time. But it was the dog that really started things. It appeared that night. I was at my desk, typing with headphones on, when I caught the movement, just outside the sliding glass door, in the backyard. A large black shape. I froze. There it was, a dog, huge, maybe a mastiff or a lab mix, staring in at me. Its fur looked wet, but the ground was bone dry. No collar. Just ribs showing through the fur, like a sketch done too hastily. I stood slowly, keeping my eyes on it, but the second I reached for the curtain, it was gone. There were no paw prints in the mud the next morning, just a faint smell of something like mixed salt water and rot. I brushed it off. Stress, isolation, maybe even a trick of the glass. My mind was cluttered with deadlines looming, but it came back the next night and the night after. Always at the same time, 2:17 a.m. It was always silent, just watching. On the fifth night, I opened the door. Nothing. No sign of it. I stepped out, barefoot, shivering. The wind was still, but then I heard it, panting. Not from the yard. It was from the path, the one leading to the gate. I should have gone back inside, but I followed it. The panting sound pulled me, like a rope tied to my chest. Leaves crunched underfoot as I walked. The gate was open now. I swear to God it was closed the day before. The shed, or what was left of it, reeked. The closer I got, the heavier the air became, like I was breathing through wet wool. And the panting grew louder, harsh, labored, right behind me. When I turned, there was just darkness and trees. I didn't even try to sleep that night. Instead, I researched. I asked the town librarian, an elderly woman, who flinched when I mentioned the lane. She called it Marlowe's Gate. Said no one went near it after the 1980s, wouldn't say why. I dug deeper, wading through old newspapers and police reports. In 1987, a boy named Casey Marlowe disappeared from my property. He was 8 years old, loved animals, and had a black lab named Tucker. They found Casey's body a week later in the shed, throat torn open, like an animal had gotten to him. But there were no prints and no signs of struggle, just a chewed-up collar nearby. Tucker's, his dog that they never found. That night, I heard the dog scratching at the door. Not like a normal dog, not eager or playful. It was slow, deliberate, like claws dragging over wood. I didn't move. I just sat on the couch, holding a kitchen knife I knew wouldn't help me. Around 3 a.m., the scratching stopped. In the morning, the door had 4 long gouges running down the center. I set up cameras, 3 of them, one facing the yard, one down the path, and one just outside the shed ruins. That night, nothing happened, but the footage showed something did happen. At 2:17 a.m., the camera in the yard cut to static for exactly 13 seconds. When it came back, there were fresh paw prints in the mud. Huge paw prints, spaced wrong, like whatever made them limped or crawled. Worse, the camera at the shed caught something, a shape, not quite dog, not quite shadow. Its legs were too long and its eyes glowed, but not with light, more like heat, rage. It stared at the camera for 7 full minutes, didn't move at all, just stared, then walked out of the frame. I left the next day, drove 8 hours straight, ended the lease early and went home, but it has followed me. I see it sometimes at night, reflected in windows, standing at the edge of parking lots. Last night, it scratched at my front door. I blocked it with the dresser. Around 3 a.m., the scratching stopped. But this morning, I found 4 gouges on the inside of my door, and the faint smell, always that smell. I don't know what it wants, but I know it's going to get me eventually, and I'm scared, really, really scared.